let's actually broaden it to the perhaps the organizational level, right? Yeah. One of the things that I also help people with is to help organizations reinvent themselves first by identifying what their core purpose and missions are. And few tools that I use are stories. So I'll share them with you and see what you think of them. Mm-hmm. So one is I ask them to think about their favorite movies and recount their favorite movies, and then based on that, what about these movies are the core common denominators? And then that potentially is because you emotionally resonate with those core values, that's therefore are your core values as an individual, and then collectively as a leadership role, and what are some of the core values that you wanted to that are the common denominators amongst the leadership team, and that you can then use as the core value of the organization. What do you think about that approach?
Yeah, it's what I'm hearing there is it's in the archetype, right? When someone relates to a particular story or a particular hero or film or whatever, really the commonalities that they're picking there draws upon a certain archetype, right? The different hero archetypes, they're not hero archetypes, but just character archetypes or organizational archetypes. It might be Nike plays the role of the hero, right? Or Godiva Chocolates plays the role of the lover, right? So depending on the organization there, they fit into the different archetype. But the reason why that's significant is because each archetype has its own story, their own challenges to overcome, their own strengths and weaknesses there, right? So like it's easy to theme, like the hero's journey and the pitfalls and the peaks and valleys and everything that's going to be consistent. But it's like the flavoring of that hero's journey is where the archetype plays into it.
Say the last sentence again. The flavoring of the journey is what the archetype plays in. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, like the hero's journey itself, the actual structure and the ordering of the moments is going to be consistent. Mm-hmm. But the archetype, for example, let's use the ruler as an example, right? So the ruler just wants to create order. That's like their motto is like just order and order from chaos, right? So there's the enlightened version, which we would get a good ruler archetype would be like IBM. But the shadow version of that archetype is like the tyrant, right? You can have a benevolent ruler or you can have a tyrant ruler. So the story, right? If we're bringing it back to the low point, now that we're related to the low point, the apostasis moment is that what they have to do is give away. And if I'm creating a story off the top of my head, I would imagine that hero, an organization that's currently in the low point, they're going out of business or something. Potentially, there's something to look at around if they were imposing too strict of a rule or something. And so they exhibited more of their shadow archetype, either within the company or even their products that they use or their relationship to their customers could be resembling more of that shadow archetype. And so the room that they have, the opportunity that they have is to dissolve that old way of being and step into the higher version of that ruler archetype. Right? So they're still going through the low point. The hero's journey is still intact, but the work that they have to do is flavored differently based on how that archetype expresses itself. The overall structure is intact. The hero's journey, they're still going through the low point in order to reach the ultimate boon there at the end. But their story is going to be different. If they've identified themselves as being a ruler versus being an explorer, two different lessons to get from their individual low points.
Yeah, I got it. So from your perspective, this is the path of the hero. The journey could look like an explorer. The journey could look like a benevolent king based on the archetype that they choose to integrate for their own journey, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The explorer and the ruler will both find the low point, but what they learn in their low points will be different.
Totally. Thank you. Another very revealing question that I ask my clients is, who are your heroes? Because there are certain internal value that they hold that would have deemed these individuals as their heroes. If you look at all their heroes, 2 or 3 of them, very clearly you can start to see some common denominators for those people that they deem as heroes. You can call
Yeah.
them mentors, you can call them people that you admire, whatever name you give it, but people that this founder look up to are very revealing of what they may not even personally be aware of. Because what I'll say is this type of questions are insightful because when you are a fish, right, you're swimming in the ocean, you can't see water, right? So when you're in the midst of your personal stories and personal values, you can't really know why I'm doing this. I'm doing it because I like it. So these type of questions actually takes you out of, your own fishbowl, so you can actually see it from a different lens.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think, again, it comes back to the archetype, right? Who their heroes are points more to who are if you idolize a certain executive or something, let's say that one of their heroes is Elon Musk. It reveals a lot about where they might fall as an archetype, and that they really relate to the rebel, right? If it's an Elon example.
Mm-hmm.